Discover the amazing moment a black maid silenced a room of billionaires with heartwarming truth. Clara stood in the shadowy service area of Mr. Sullivan's penthouse, her heart racing. Tonight was the charity gala, and the air was thick with the scent of expensive cologne and freshly uncorked champagne. Lavish chandeliers bathed the room in golden light, highlighting the elite billionaire guests as they mingled. She could catch snippets of their conversations, their voices dripping with entitlement. It was like watching a different world, one that felt miles away, even though she was only a few steps from it. Success is a matter of choice, a frosty voice proclaimed, laughter echoing around the lavish space. Clara's fists clenched, nails biting into her palm. They tossed around their wealth like it was a trophy, dismissing the struggles of families who worked themselves to the bone just to get by, families like hers. She took a deep breath and fought back the painful tide of indignation swelling inside her. Her son, Malik, the bright 12-year-old full of dreams, flashed through her mind. He deserved better than to face a world that judged him by the color of his skin or the size of her paycheck. Tears threatened as she thought of the long hours she worked. The endless scrubbing, cooking, and cleaning to create a future for him. She wanted him to succeed, to rise above the systemic shadows that loomed over their lives. All she wanted was for him to feel seen. As the night wore on, she felt the pull inside her swell. Her values, hard work, determination, love, were being stomped on by a parade of privilege. How could they look past the sacrifices of the people serving them? Clara swallowed hard, her heart pounding like a drum. She wanted to speak, to express the truth of their struggles, but the fear of losing her job loomed like a dark cloud. The thought of Malik and the future she dreamed for him urged her on. Finally, confidence surged through her. She couldn't stay silent any longer. With a deep breath, she stepped out from the shadows into the dazzling light. The music faded, and a hush fell over the room. Heads turned, eyebrows furrowed, curiosity glinting in their gazes. Clara's heart thudded in her chest, but something fierce roared within her. "I am Clara, and I clean your floors." Her voice rang clear, a stark counter to the comfortable chatter that meant nothing. "I work hard every day to give my son a future that isn't decided by wealth but by his worth." Gasps rippled through the crowd as she spoke. "My son, Malik, is smart and kind. But he is often overlooked because of his skin and our circumstances. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clara's words hung in the air like a challenge. Billionaires who once dismissed the struggles of others now shifted uncomfortably, their shiny masks slipping. The truth she spoke pierced through their facades. What did they really know about success? Was it just money, or could it mean something deeper? The crowd seemed frozen in time, wrestling with the weight of her truth, while Clara's heart pounded with hope. Would her voice echo and lead to change, or would they retreat back into their ivory towers? As tension thickened in the room, Clara stood tall, poised to answer the questions she had ignited, ready to fight for her son's future and the dignity that was a birthright stolen from so many. The silence felt electric, a surreal pause that seemed to stretch on forever. Clara looked from face to face, gathering the startled expressions, the shock radiating through the room like a ripple of awakening. No one spoke, their glitzy confidence had cracked just enough for her to glimpse the humanity behind their wealth. She had crossed an invisible line, and there was no going back. Her heart trembled not with fear anymore but with something stronger, resolve. A voice in the back of her mind urged her to continue, to dig deeper into the well of her pain and transform it into power. "You hide behind your money, but there are countless people like me out there," she said, her voice steadier now, emboldened by the disbelief in their eyes. "We are the backbone of this city. My story echoes in the lives of many. It's time you looked beyond your gilded cages. A murmured conversation sparked among the guests, whispers of shock and curiosity weaving through the crowd like wildfire. Clara caught sight of a woman in a crimson dress, her lips quivering, eyes wide with emotion. The woman's gaze seemed to search for understanding, perhaps a flicker of recognition for the struggles that she, too, had endured, albeit in different circumstances. Then, unexpectedly, Mr. Sullivan stepped forward. The host, a man known for his ruthlessness in business, now wore an expression of bewilderment. "Clara," he started, but the emotion caught in his throat. He seemed to hesitate, grappling with her powerful revelation. This was a man who rarely expressed vulnerability, and in that moment, Clara saw a glimpse of humanity she hadn't anticipated. "Yes, Mr. Sullivan," she replied, defiantly raising an eyebrow. I appreciate your honesty," he managed, his voice shaky but genuine. "It takes a lot of strength to say something like that in front of us." Clara felt her heart flutter. Could this be a turning point? Would her words inspire change or at least reflection among those who had always considered themselves above the fray? Another voice chimed in, this one younger and filled with a passion that mirrored her own. "My dad didn't want me to come tonight," a tall, blond boy said, stepping forward, his cheeks flushed. "He said it was all just for show." "But Clara, you've shown us that there's a real world out there." The crowd stirred, the dynamic shifting. Clara could hardly believe what she was witnessing. They were beginning to see. They were beginning to understand. Around her, the billionaires began to murmur amongst themselves, casting aside their assumptions in light of her courage. Yet amid the swelling empathy, a flicker of fear threatened to overshadow it. Would they even act upon this newfound awareness? Would they turn their pity into something actionable beyond a moment's heartstring tug? Malik waited at home, and the weight of his future hovered like a beacon in her heart, reminding her of the urgency propelling her forward. She wasn't just fighting for her own dignity but for all the mothers and fathers who toiled in silence, wishing for a chance to be seen and heard. Clara took a breath and drew closer. "You can change this narrative," she urged, eyes scanning the room. "Use your privilege. Use your voice. Lift others up instead of clinging to the shadows of your wealth. You have the power to create change." As Clara's words hung in the air, a palpable energy filled the room. Would they listen? Would they take that leap? Her heart thumped loudly, echoing her fears and hopes. This was not just a moment, this was a movement waiting to ignite. But would they step forward from their comfort zone, or retreat once again into their privileged lives, dismissing her voice as just another fleeting moment? Clara's gaze was steady, unwavering. Their next move would seal their fates, and she felt a thrill of anticipation. What would happen next? Would she inspire a ripple of change or find herself standing alone amidst the spark fading back to darkness? The night was just beginning. A charged silence enveloped the room, wrapping around Clara like a cloak. She could almost hear the collective heartbeat of the crowd, each pulse a question, what now? It felt surreal to be at the center of their attention, to have stripped the glittering facade of wealth down to its bare essentials. Then, as if stepping into the light after a long shadow, Mr. Sullivan took a deep breath. "Clara," he started again, more sure of himself this time, his face softening. "You've put us in a position we didn't expect. I think we need to listen, really listen. How can we help? What do you need us to do?" Her heart raced. Was this genuine? The billionaire's words echoed through the lavish room, and before she could respond, others began to speak. "You're right," a woman in a pearl necklace chimed in. "We can't ignore the realities outside our luxury bubbles. It's time we do something meaningful." Clara's throat tightened at the unexpected support. Each voice that joined in felt like an affirmation, a determination to change not just for her, but for everyone who had ever felt invisible. Yet, she knew they had to move beyond empty words. This was a delicate balance, and one misstep could send it all spiraling back into the comfort of indifference. "I need you to put your money where your mouths are," she said, swallowing hard, thoughts racing. "There are non-profit organizations, community programs. Invest in education, health. Look for those who carry this city on their backs every day but barely scrape by. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Clara caught the eye of the woman in crimson again, who nodded, a sign of support that grounded her amidst the whirlwind of emotions. She saw a shared determination flicker, connecting them in a way that transcended the barriers of wealth and privilege. Suddenly, the blonde boy stepped forward once more. I have an idea. When school starts, we could organize drives. Fundraisers. Help them directly. His voice cracked but was full of youthful urgency. The fervor in his words reminded Clara of Malik's hopeful dreams, those for a brighter future, and she couldn't help but smile at his courage. Together, Clara echoed, her heart swelling with pride for this unexpected alliance. We can raise awareness. We can bring change, not just talk about it. As discussions erupted around her, excitement crackled, plans forming, future initiatives being drafted. Clara felt her resolve tremble against a swell of hope. Would this actually turn into something real? Could these billionaires commit to the hard work? But a pang of caution struck her. It was one thing to promise change, quite another to follow through. Would they remain committed when the novelty wore off? When the demands of their lavish lives beckoned them, the sound of laughter broke the tension, and Clara turned to see a group engaging in vibrant conversation. Mr. Sullivan leaned toward her, eyes earnest. What's your timeline? When do we start? Immediately, she responded, heart pounding. The time is now. We can't wait until tomorrow, because tomorrow might be too late for so many. The energy shifted palpably. Ideas flew across the room as guests pulled out their phones, some starting group chats, others jotting down notes. Clara felt an adrenaline rush. The storm she had started was gathering strength, building in ways she hadn't dared to imagine. That a hand touched her shoulder, a reassuring squeeze from the woman in crimson. You've sparked something, Clara. We won't let it fade. We'll stay connected. As Clara beamed at the unfolding possibilities, she felt a flicker of fear creep in again. Would it be enough? Tomorrow they could all part ways, returning to their gilded lives. But for tonight, at least, hope ignited a fire within her. The movement was alive. The real struggle was just beginning. What did she need to do to ensure this momentum continued? As questions churned in her heart, she understood that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. But deep down, intertwined with the struggle, there was a burgeoning sense of belonging and purpose that whispered louder than her fears. Would they cross the threshold into action, or would this moment slip away into history? The night was alive with promise, but Clara knew the real test was yet to come. What would happen at the dawn of their first collective effort? The next morning came with a palpable buzz lingering in the air. Clara woke up earlier than usual, her mind racing. Ideas woven from last night's discussions danced rhythmically through her thoughts. She was buoyed by excitement but tempered by an undercurrent of doubt. The possibilities felt endless, yet the stakes were undeniably high. As sunlight spilled through her window, she grabbed her phone and began scrolling through a stream of messages. They were from the group, her new coalition of wealthy allies. They were eager, their enthusiasm palpable. She felt her heart surge upon reading the encouragement and optimism woven into their words. They were ready to get started. But would their energy hold? After a quick breakfast, Clara gathered her notes and prepared to meet at the community center, a small, worn building in the heart of the neighborhood she grew up in. It felt surreal stepping back into a place that echoed her childhood. The scent of old wood and linoleum floors was familiar, comforting, yet bittersweet. As she arrived, she spotted a few volunteers already setting up tables and decorations. She couldn't help but smile at the sight, familiar faces, sweaty brows, and the shared laughter of people committed to making a difference. They were tackling what felt like an uphill battle together, and hope bloomed in the simplest of moments. Minutes later, the group of billionaires began to trickle in, each one noticeably out of their element. Clara noted their discomfort but felt a thrill at seeing them surrounded by a community that they had until now only known from a distance. Mr. Sullivan approached first, a briefcase in one hand and a determination in the other. "Ready to change the world?" he asked, a little too eagerly, as if testing his own resolve. "Let us start by listening," Clara replied, her voice steady. "We can't help if we don't know what the community really needs." The first hour was filled with storytelling. Clara introduced the volunteers who recounted tales of struggle and resilience, notes of laughter punctuating the heavier moments. The billionaires listened intently, their expressions shifting from curious to contemplative. Clara could almost see each of them recalibrating their perspectives. The woman in crimson stood to speak. "I had no idea things were this severe. We've been blind," she admitted, her voice tinged with remorse. Clara felt the collective shift in energy, a moment of reflection. After they spoke, ideas flew around the room like shooting stars. Fundraising events, education workshops, job training programs, each proposal sparked enthusiasm and newfound urgency among Clara's affluent allies. Yet, deep inside her, the nagging worry remained. Would they follow through when things got challenging? As the day unfolded, they planned a campaign to promote awareness, mapping out strategies on whiteboards and scribbling notes on napkins. Clara's heart swelled with a mixture of hope and disbelief. This was really happening. Then, in the midst of the excitement, a voice broke in from the back. It was Malik. Clara recognized him instantly, a young man brimming with ambition yet weighed down by societal hurdles. "What's in it for us?" he asked, each word heavy with the reality of life on the other side of wealth. The room fell silent, the earlier energy dissipating as every gaze turned towards Malik. Clara's heart thudded. She sensed they were at a crossroads. Would they be defensive? Or would they choose to engage with the truth? Malik continued, "I mean, it's easy for you to stand here and listen. But how are we going to ensure it's not just charity? How do we make real, lasting change?" His question hung in the air, a command for honesty reverberating through the space. Clara saw Mr. Sullivan's brow furrowed, deep in thought. This could either unravel the fragile unity they created or transform it into something stronger. Glancing back at Malik, Clara felt a mix of admiration and fear for Malik's courage, for the tension surfacing, for the growing critical awareness of both sides. As she opened her mouth to answer, her heart racing with the weight of the moment, she realized they needed dedication, not just words. This was the moment to confront both vulnerability and ambition. How they responded now could pave the way for a genuine partnership, or fracture it beyond repair. Would the billionaires choose collaboration over charity, or would they stumble back, retreating to their gilded lives? The silence stretched long, heavy with anticipation. Clara took a deep breath, summoning the courage to speak as all eyes fixed on her. She knew this was the moment that could shift everything. The weight of her own dreams and the lives around her pressed down, demanding action. "Malik is right," she began, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "This isn't about handing out money or ticking boxes. It's about building bridges and forming relationships. You all came here wanting to help, but helping isn't enough. We need to involve the community in the solutions. None of this can work without your commitment, your follow-through." She glanced around the room, gauging reactions. The billionaires' faces mirrored uncertainty and concern. Mr. Sullivan shifted uncomfortably, while the woman in crimson looked ashamed. "I get it," he finally said, his voice low. "We've been so focused on our own worlds. But where do we start?" "Start by asking questions," Clara suggested. "Get to know the stories of the people you want to help. You can't fix what you don't understand. Your wealth can be a tool, but you also have to invest in trust and respect." The room buzzed with murmurs again. Malik uncrossed his arms, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "How do we create that trust?" he pressed. "How do we ensure our efforts are felt and valued?" Clara nodded, acknowledging the challenge. "It'll take time to build. You can't rush relationships. Start here, invite community members into these meetings. Build a genuine dialogue. Show us we matter. A woman at the far end, a local teacher, raised her hand tentatively. What if we create mentorship programs? We could pair experienced professionals with students who need guidance. Great idea. Clara replied, her spirit lifting as others chimed in. They began brainstorming, their voices overlapping with excitement and optimism. Malik smiled now, a warmth breaking through his earlier wariness. And what if they also had access to internships? That could lead to real-world jobs. As the suggestions grew bolder, Clara's heart swelled with hope. Had they turned a corner? Could this diverse group come together to change lives? But amidst the newfound momentum, Clara felt a familiar weight return, an echo of doubt lurking in her mind. She was thrilled but couldn't ignore the skepticism that shadowed past charitable efforts with fleeting reforms. Let's take the next step as a team, Mr. Sullivan said, more firmly this time. We can't walk away now. This has to be more than just another initiative. It's an obligation. The room erupted in applause, the sound swelling like a wave of shared purpose. Clara felt the energy shift, a tangible sense of unity. But just when she thought they were on the right track, Malik shot her a penetrating look, his expression shifting from gratitude to intensity. And what if you all decide you can't handle it? What's the backup plan? The applause faded quietly, and uncertainty trickled back into the room. Clara's heart dropped momentarily. Was she ready for that hurdle? Would they still stand strong when the road got rocky? As she looked around, the initial thrill morphed into a deeper challenge. With commitment now on the table, could they face the reality of resilience together? Would their hearts stay open when faced with tough decisions and failures ahead? Clara breathed deeply, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders once more. She was determined, but there was so much left unsaid. Let's take this one step at a time and see where it leads us, she replied, holding on to the flicker of hope that ignited within the room. Just as the group began to outline their next steps, a loud crash echoed from outside, breaking the moment and drawing all their attention. Clara exchanged worried glances with Malik, her heart racing again. What now? Would this disrupt everything they had just built, or would the ensuing chaos reveal the true strength of their resolve? The noise shattered the hopeful atmosphere, a stark contrast to the warmth building just moments before. Clara's heart raced with anticipation and fear. She exchanged worried looks with Malik, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Stay put, he said quietly, his tone decisive as he stood up. The others followed suit, curiosity mingling with anxiety. With quick strides, Malik moved towards the large windows. Clara's focus shifted to the faces around her. Some looked frightened, others confused. Mr. Sullivan's brow furrowed, the earlier confidence overshadowed by the disruption. What was that? Someone whispered. Clara felt the collective tension rise in the room. The crash sounded like glass shattering, followed by a muffled commotion outside. Let us find out, she said, her voice carrying authority she didn't quite feel. She stepped beside Malik, peering through the window. A car had overturned just yards from the building, smoke billowing and people scrambling. It was chaos, totally opposite to what they had discussed, a life hanging precariously by a thread. Call 911. Malik commanded, his voice cutting through the panicked murmurs. Clara nodded, retrieving her phone as the others began to rush towards the exit. She felt a surge of adrenaline. Wait. We need to coordinate. As she stepped outside, the scene unfolded in agonizing detail. A young woman, disoriented and bleeding, crawled from the wreckage. Clara's heart sank. She moved instinctively, her feet pounding against the pavement as Malik dashed to her side. Somebody help. He yelled, his voice echoing through the crowd that had gathered. A few people hesitated, frozen by shock, while others scrambled for their phones to report the incident. Clara knelt beside the woman, assessing the situation. Fear gripped her, yet she focused. Stay with me. Clara urged as she gently held the woman's shoulder. What's your name? Sarah, the woman gasped, trying to catch her breath. Clara's eyes softened. "You're going to be okay. Help is coming," she said as sirens wailed in the distance, growing nearer. Clara glanced back at Malik, who had moved to help another person trapped in the wreck. The billionaires had begun to join the fray, their expressions shifting from concern for their comfort to genuine desperation. She noticed Mr. Sullivan run to grab a blanket from a nearby van. In that moment, amidst the faces of chaos and courage, the idea of togetherness bloomed again. Clara felt the walls of their former lives crumble around them. This wasn't just about talks and plans anymore. They were stepping into action, facing the raw reality of human experience together. The ambulance arrived, lights flashing, chaos momentarily replaced by focused urgency. They sprang into action, medical professionals expertly assessing the injuries, grounding Clara amid the surging emotions. Clara turned to Malik. "This is our chance to show that we care," she said, breathless. "Exactly," he replied, determination etched on his face as they continued to assist where they could. This is real." The billionaires, once just figures of wealth and privilege, were rolling up their sleeves, answering calls for assistance. Clara saw Malik share words of support, his gestures calming. Yet, deep within her, Clara sensed the shift in dynamics. These discussions of mentorships and partnerships now felt too small to contain the magnitude of what was unfolding. "Let us remember this moment," she whispered to herself, heart pounding as the reality of their shared commitment crystallized. But as she turned back to the chaos, another wail pierced the air. The sob of a child echoed from the wreckage, sending a jolt through her. What awaited them alongside this chaos? Would they rise to the challenge, or would old habits pull them back into their corners? Clara felt the pressing urgency in her heart, uncertain about the answers that lay ahead. Clara turned sharply at the sound of the child's cry, her heart racing. Every fiber of her being pulled her toward the source of the plea. She spotted a small figure, crouched near the wreckage, tears streaming down a dirt-smudged face. The child's tiny frame trembled in the chaos around her, a silhouette of vulnerability in a world suddenly turned upside down. Before she could think, Clara sprang into action, pushing through the crowd. "I'll get her," she shouted to anyone who could hear. Not waiting for a response, Malik was right beside her, his hand gripping her arm for a moment. "You're not alone, Clara. We'll do this together." They dashed forward, weaving around the ambulance and the gathering paramedics. Clara's mind raced, replaying the moments before the crash, the conversations about responsibility, the plans that felt so trivial now that as they reached the girl, Clara knelt for a better look. "Hey there, I'm Clara. What's your name?" she said gently, maintaining eye contact, hoping to ground the child amidst the turmoil. A shaky breath escaped the girl. "Lila," she whispered, each syllable laced with fear. Clara reached out a hand, offering both comfort and an invitation. "I'm here to help you, Lila. Can you tell me where your mom or dad is?" The child pointed towards the car. They're inside." Fear gripped Clara like a vice. She exchanged a glance with Malik, who nodded with resolve. They needed to act, there was no time to waste. "Stay close to us, okay?" Malik said, his voice low and calming. "We're going to get you to safety." Clara turned back to the wreckage, assessing the situation. Smoke still billowed, but she could see the shattered remains of what had once been a family vehicle. A tall man stood nearby, pale and shaking. His family's suffering flickered across his face like a candle's flame, and Clara realized he was Lila's father. "Can you help them?" she shouted over the growing noise of sirens. "We need to get them out." A paramedic caught the urgency in her voice and rushed toward them. "We're on it," he yelled back, pulling out equipment, a determined expression on his face. As they waited, Clara kept Lila close, feeling the girl's small body settle against hers. "You're so brave," she murmured, stroking Lila's hair. "Help is on the way." Moments felt like hours. People around them remained caught in their own shock, standing witness to a scene that was difficult to handle. Yet Clara sensed something shifting within them. She could see when people stepped up to lend a hand or offer comfort, an invisible thread of connection began weaving through the onlookers. Malik touched Clara's arm, his eyes filled with fierce determination. "We can't stand by. We need to get Lila somewhere safe." Clara nodded but felt the weight of indecision. What if we end up drawing more attention? What if we invade their moment? But suddenly, a loud crash. The sound made them all spin around. A side door of the car swung open, revealing a woman, dazed and bleeding, struggling to get out. The gaze of desperation in her eyes fueled Clara's conviction. "Lila!" The woman screamed. "Mom!" Lila cried, and Clara's heart shattered for the girl. In this moment, they were all bound together by love and survival, transcending their past lives, their status, their fears. "Go! Get her!" Malik urged, and without thinking, Clara surged forward, ready to help rescue the family trapped in a moment of despair that was begging for hope. Would they be able to reach them in time? Could they unite this broken family amid the chaos, or would the specter of their old lives pull them apart again? Clara's breath quickened with the urgency of the moment as she plunged into the wreckage, feeling that they were about to find out just how powerful their collective strength could truly be. Clara moved swiftly through the wreckage, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The world around her faded, her focus honing in on the woman struggling to emerge from the car. Each step felt heavy with the weight of urgency and fear, but her determination overshadowed it all. "Hold on. We're coming!" Clara shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. She could see Lila's expression shift from fear to hope as her mother's face came into view. Malik stayed close, maintaining his protective stance beside Clara as they approached the woman. "Support her," he said, gripping Clara's shoulder. "We can't let her fall back in." With a nod, Clara took a deep breath. The moment felt surreal, like time suspended in a fragile bubble that could burst at any second. She reached out, steadying the woman as she crawled out, inch by painstaking inch. Lila was crying now, the sound both heartbreaking and beautiful. It was a sound of survival. "Mommy!" Lila wailed. The girl broke from Clara's side and raced toward her mother, arms open wide. "Lila!" The woman gasped, her voice cracking with emotion. Their embrace was raw, desperate, as if the world outside had ceased to exist. Clara's heart opened further, watching the reunion unfold. The joy mingled with pain, creating a powerful symphony of relief amidst the chaos. "Stay back!" a paramedic yelled as he rushed past. "We need to check her for injuries." Clara stepped back instinctively, feeling the heat of the flames flickering nearby as the paramedics swarmed around the family. Malik placed a hand on Clara's back, grounding her. "They're in good hands now," he reassured quietly. Clara's gaze flickered to the crowd, now buzzing with energy. The fear and shock on people's faces was slowly replaced with a kind of hope, like fireflies in the darkness, small sparks amidst the horror. She could see it in their expressions, the urge to help. The instinct to connect, but Clara felt an ache deep in her chest. The magnitude of the moment, the fragility of life hit her like a tidal wave. She had spent days fixated on the trivial aspects of her existence, forgetting what it meant to truly care. And now, witnessing Lila and her mother, everything she had taken for granted loomed large. "Clara?" Malik's voice pulled her from her thoughts, gentle yet urgent. "What's wrong?" She shook her head, a tear escaping down her cheek. I don't want to forget this. I don't want to go back to the way things were." He nodded slowly, understanding lighting up his eyes. "We're changed by moments like this. We have choices now." Lila, still in her mother's embrace, turned her head to look at Clara, confusion shadowing her young face. Clara knelt down, wiping her eyes and smiling gently. "You're so brave, Lila," she whispered, wanting the girl to know they'd done everything they could. The paramedics were working quickly, assessing injuries, and Lila's mother, despite her battered appearance, looked fierce, filled with a chaotic energy that seemed to breathe life into the air around them. It was a testament to perseverance. With the family now safe and tended to, Clara felt a momentary peace wash over her. But there was still so much uncertainty. She glanced back at the wreckage, where once a family car had been, and wondered how deeply this experience would ripple through their lives. Malik looked over, sensing Clara's unease. "And what about us? What will we choose to carry from this?" Just then, another crash echoed from behind them, a sound that turned the fleeting peace into dread, making Clara twist around, heart racing anew. What more could happen here? Was the chaos of that moment truly behind them, or was it merely the prelude to something far more profound? As Clara stood, frozen in place, she realized they were at the cusp of another revelation, one that would shake them to the core and test the connections they had just begun to forge in this unexpected storm. The echo of the crash hung in the air, sharp and jarring. Clara's heart raced as she turned, the remnants of adrenaline surging through her. She felt Malik's arm brush against her, a steady presence as they both scanned the scene before them. The previously buzzing crowd started shifting, their interference with excitement and anxiety palpable, and then she saw it, a semi-truck barreling down the street, careening toward the site of the wreck. Panic gripped her gut. "Get Lila and her mom out of here!" Clara yelled, her voice urgent and commanding. She could see the approaching truck grow larger, the sound of screeching tires filling the air like an alarm bell. Malik moved like lightning, catching Lila's mother by the arm and gently pulling her away from the chaos. "We need to move now," he shouted, guiding them towards safety as Clara stepped into the path of the truck, fear and bravery intertwining within her. "Clara!" Malik's voice rose above the chaos, a note of disbelief and worry lacing his tone. She didn't know how to explain it, all she felt was an instinct pulling her forward. The ground shook with the truck's rumble, a distorted sense of urgency blurring her surroundings. This moment demanded action. She had to protect these lives, not just the ones right in front of her but the countless others who were still mere shadows in the struggle. With a deep breath, Clara faced the approaching vehicle, her fists clenched tightly, drawing strength from within. "Hey! Over here!" Clara shouted, waving her arms wide. Desperation seeped through her words. She locked eyes with the driver, desperately trying to convey the urgency, the lives hanging in the balance. A split second later, in a moment that felt stretched across eternity, the truck screeched to a halt, tires skidding against asphalt and filling the air with the burning scent of rubber. Relief swept over Clara like a wave, but it was fleeting. In the silence that followed, she turned back to the crowd. The stunned faces reflected a mix of awe and confusion. A deep breath escaped her. Why had she pushed so far? What more would it take for everyone to understand why this moment mattered? Malik joined her side, having successfully pulled Lila and her mother to safety. "You're insane," he breathed, his expression a blend of admiration and fear. Clara shook her head, not ready to discuss the fallout. "Did you see their faces?" Clara gestured, reeling from the emotional charge coursing through her. "People need to feel something real again. We can't go back to just being us. Not after this." Malik nodded, his gaze unwavering. "You're right. But we need to stay aware. Danger isn't just physical, it lurks in complacency." His voice faded as his eyes shifted beyond the crowd. Clara felt a sense of foreboding ripple through her. Suddenly, a new commotion broke out among the gathering crowd. Clara's stomach tightened as she turned to see a man wading through the onlookers. His face was stern, a storm brewing within the depths of his eyes. Clara couldn't shake the feeling that he was different, unlike the rest. What was he about to unveil? "Help!" he shouted, desperation in his voice. "Please, anybody. I need your help." Clara could feel the weight of his urgency, the plea reaching out for someone, anyone, to respond. She exchanged a glance with Malik. They had just braved a storm and now stood at the precipice of another one. Heart pounding, Clara took a step toward the man, drawn in by the power of connection and choice. What could he need? What awaited them beyond this moment of uncertainty? As she approached, a sudden realization struck this could ripple even deeper, altering everything they thought they understood about love, loss, and vulnerability. This was just the beginning, and there were hurdles yet to come that could shatter all they had built. Would they find the courage to confront whatever lay ahead? With her heart racing, Clara took a breath, ready to step into the unknown. Clara's breath quickened as she approached the man, his eyes pleading with urgency. She could see something monstrous about to unfold. "What's wrong?" she called, her voice steady amid the chaos that still buzzed around them like a storm waiting to break. "My sister," he gasped, looking around, eyes wide with panic. "She's trapped under a fallen beam a few blocks away. Please. We need help to lift it off her." Clara's heart wrenched in sympathy. She could see the desperation on his face, the terror of family love facing an unforgiving reality. It felt like a boom had echoed through the ground beneath her, a primal call to action. "Let us go." Malik moved beside her, determination etched into his features. "Everyone. We need volunteers." He raised his voice, galvanizing the crowd. The billionaires, once lost in their privilege, transformed before Clara's eyes. Faces hardened with resolve. Men and women, those accustomed to being untouchable, began to disperse, their shock replaced with purpose. Clara felt a swell of pride as she joined them, ready to fight for this life just like they had for Lila and her mother. Together the crowd rolled toward the scene, the distance shrinking with every pounding step. Clara's heart raced. She felt empowered, each beat echoed the central truth that had emerged through their shared trauma. It brought them closer to action. When they reached the location, they found the beam an immense, twisted metal slab strewn across a crumpled car. It looked grim, the scene around all too common in their urban landscape. Clara felt her resolve strengthen as she glanced at the man beside her. His face radiated fierce worry, a reflection of the stakes resting heavy on their shoulders. "On the count of 3. Malik shouted, rallying all they gathered around. Clara could hear the tension. Hope against hope was lighting new fire in their chests. 1, 2, 3. With a collective roar, they pushed against the beam with every ounce of strength they had. The metallic screech cut through the air as it began to budge. Clara gritted her teeth, digging deep. Each heave drew strength not just from her muscles, but from her heart, her fierce love for Malik, for Lila, for every soul hidden away by privilege. Finally, with a last Herculean effort, they lifted the beam high enough for the trapped woman to crawl free. Clara's breath caught as a figure stumbled from beneath it, arms shaking, but alive. Cheers erupted around them like fireworks, but Clara kept her eyes glued on the woman, relief washing over her as she broke into sobs of gratitude. As the crowd celebrated, Clara felt the reality of what they had achieved sink in. This moment had transformed something in every one of them, the billionaires, the volunteers, and even the strangers watching from the sidewalks. They were no longer separated by wealth or status. They had uncovered a universal truth of connection that transcended all barriers. Malik stepped close, a triumphant smile lighting up his face. "Did you see that?" he whispered, eyes bright with disbelief. Clara nodded, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. Life had felt gritty and unfair, but in this moment, she realized they did not only change the course of that woman's fate but created a ripple effect of change. As the ambulance arrived and the paramedics took over, Clara took a step back with Malik. Her heart swelled. Every challenge ahead felt surmountable. They had the fire of shared experience. "Let us not stop here," Clara said, her voice firm. "Think about all the lives we will impact. This connection, it's just the start." Malik chuckled nervously, glancing at the buzzing crowd. "You're right. We need to keep this momentum going." A newfound determination lit his eyes, a spark formed from shared struggles that could ignite a movement. The crowd began to disperse, exchanging numbers and promises to help each other channel their efforts into something lasting. As they departed, Clara turned to the billionaires standing nearby, admiration and hope swirling in her chest. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished," she said to Mr. Sullivan, who now wore a look that reflected both remorse and newfound clarity. But this can't just be another moment. We need to keep pushing. Mr. Sullivan nodded, brow furrowed in thought. You're full of surprises, Clara. I'll invest in initiatives, not just financially, but my own time as well. This will stick with me. Pride surged through her, mingling with relief and joy. The night hadn't just thrust them into a confrontation of their privilege, it had pulled them all into the intricate web of humanity. Amid the intertwining threads of connections formed and hopes brought to life, Clara felt a sturdy resilience in her heart. This wasn't just about one plentiful evening or fleeting philanthropy, this was the dawn of a movement grounded in shared purpose. Let us commit to this as a community, Malik whispered, and she knew it echoed everyone's sentiments. Clara smiled, radiant. They had achieved something profound together, they had unlocked the power of their collective strength. It was time to face a new future, one where they could create lasting impact, the best legacy for their children and generations to come. And in her heart, she felt the first flicker of joy. The dream she held for Malik could finally breathe dreams into reality. Now was the time to shine, together. So, if this story has moved you and inspired you to create change, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for stories that matter. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us bring more impactful narratives to light. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful transformation, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of courage and connection. Stand with us and let us change the world together.